Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Hi, nice to see you tonight. My name is Rachel. I'm a partner and managing director at Faber Novel, and I'm also very honored to be animating the French Chamber of Commerce Marketing Working Group. And so tonight we have the chance to speak about arguably one of the hottest topics of this first quarter, particularly for those who are joining or have been following the situation in Shanghai, which is looking at how the F&B space has been disrupted and completely reshaped through lockdown. So I'll start with a very short introduction, and I'm sorry for those who were in Shanghai that may, bring back some bad memories. But I wanted to kind of put, the big milestones of what has happened in the past 4 months in Shanghai. And really, starting from March, we already actually started to see some disruptions with Pudong being closed, with some of the retailers also started to close down their doors. And some compounds, depending on what has become very famous now, the Qiyuehui, their local compound committee, starting to close down as well. And then in April, we really went into full lockdown throughout the whole city, and access to food became problematic. The government started to send some food parcel across the city. Some of the compounds got organized around a group buy, which became, an opportunity for people to get to know their neighbors. Logistic was heavily disrupted with Shanghai being really closed off, and a lot of the logistics being redispatched throughout other areas around, including Zhejiang. In May, we see very, very mixed situation, even though for most of the Shanghai, people look at it in Shanghai was still very, very closed. Some compounds start to reopen, but then we start to see what was called the silence period, where even deliveries were not allowed, including group buys. And we see a very, very big surge, of course, of private traffic and group buy, and that's something we'll have an opportunity to explore together with our guest today. And many, many businesses, and particularly in the F&B space, started operating in closed loops. And finally, in June, it seems that we are getting back on track to having a little bit more of a normal situation. But the reality is that we have very uneven situation, and areas are easily closed down, and restaurants are almost all still unable to operate normally. So during the second quarter of this year, this has not just been a Shanghai situation. Throughout the first quarter of the year, there were 300 million people across China that had some sort of movement restriction. And so this was a particular situation in Shanghai, but that has been observed in other ways in other areas. And obviously, we saw several trends appearing, and we picked just 2 of them just because we thought they are very related to our topic tonight. One of the trends, as you may notice, how many coffee shops have popped up throughout Shanghai in the past couple of years. Actually, Shanghai is the city in the world that has the most coffee shops, 7,000 coffee shops. And brands have been using coffee as a way to promote their products. That's why I gave you an example of Louis Vuitton. It seems that coffee now is a way for Louis Vuitton to be popular. We also noticed and saw that Shanghainese, being deprived from their daily coffee, had started to talk about coffee and making coffee at home as a way to get away from their obsession around that. And we also see, and I'm sure you have seen, a lot of the coffee shops starting to do group buy and even sending not just coffee beans, but also grinders and all the ways to make coffees at home. So that may have an impact in the future, where really deepening this coffee culture to a new level for Chinese consumers. And a second craze that we have noticed is obviously vegetable becoming a huge luxury item, and hunting vegetables being one of the hottest topics, and endless origin of memes being exchanged on China's social media, and a very hot topic. We also saw NGOs using NFTs. For example, this Shanghai Qing NGO that was raising money through NFTs in order to dispatch vegetables to people in need in Shanghai. We saw people treating vegetables like the biggest and best luxury of all, and a lot of very funny pictures where people were saying whatever vegetable corresponds to whatever luxury brand. And finally, we also saw the reverse, where luxury brands started using vegetables in order to showcase their product, to represent their products. And so that's an example with Hermes right here. So this was obviously the consumer-facing aspect of it and all the craze and the discussions that were going on because of that situation. And I'm very, very glad to have a chance tonight to explore what was going on behind the scenes with three very big players in the F&B space that will share with us what was going on behind the scene during that period and how did they manage to adapt through challenges and also to continue to feed us. So thank you for being with us, and I'll pass the mic to Emily, my colleague Emily.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you, Rachel, for this introduction. It's a pleasure to have those three guests with us tonight. As Rachel mentioned, we are going to talk about the behind the scene. What happened for real at different level of the F&B business, because everyone was looking for food. So how did you manage this? What was the challenges? What did you put into place in order to survive? So it's my great pleasure to ask this first question. And I would like first you to introduce yourself a bit and let me know what was the main challenges that you encountered tonight. Please, Erwan, could you start?
And in those areas, from mid-March until now, and this is what Rachel mentioned as well, it's still mostly closed. Mostly closed means that even since the 1st of June, we cannot receive guests in the restaurant and even outside of the restaurant. So it's only focused on what we call the YMI, so the delivery. And of course, we need to adapt because the restaurant is not originally organized, and all the organization we have is not made for that. So we need to adapt. And this is what we will explain tonight. But definitely what we meet the mid of March, we need to rethink everything. Otherwise, it would be the end of the restaurant. And we will explain later.
Thank you so much, Erwan. It's a very operational aspect that you're bringing to us with the restaurants. Please, Jean-Yves, could you introduce yourself and let us know what are you doing?
Okay, my name is Jean-Yves Lu. I'm founder of Hypermarket. It's an online shopping website. We're specialized in the imported food and also organic food. So it's a small company. Today we are 250 people in Shanghai and also in south of China. So the pandemic, in the beginning, during this lockdown period, we have a chance to operate it, to continue to operate it during all the period. That I will say, not say thanks, but due to our first lockdown period in the south of China, we have a structure in Shenzhen. And as you know, in the beginning of March, Shenzhen was firstly impacted by this lockdown policy. And starting by that, in Shanghai, we start to ask the local government to open all the lessons. What we said, it's a social responsibility license. So in which we open it in the middle of March, and then at the end of March, we open because we have our own logistical team. So we open a green pass for all our truck. That helped us to survive or to continue for all the operation. So we are one of the retailer who never been stopped during all the period. So I will say the main challenge for us, it was really to adapt day-to-day change on the different policy depending on the evolution of a pandemic, and to adapt also area by area. I would say different particle of this policy. So once again, it was a day-to-day, a lot of call to different government, different level to understand and trying to convince them. It was very every day it was long, I would say. Okay, long, very long.
Thank you so much. Yeah, after, let's say you had the chance to get the experience from Shenzhen, which actually, even so it was a difficult situation, allowed you to prepare in advance for Shanghai lockdown. So there is good and bad everywhere, right? I guess you learned many lessons that we will discuss a bit later. And we also have Denis with us tonight. Hi, Denis. Could you please let us know how different your business model is from our two other panelists tonight?
Good evening. So I'm Denis Vergniaud, General Manager of Synodis. Synodis was founded in '96 in China, part of the Savencia Group. And we are the bakery, pastry, and dessert specialist in food service in China. And we are a supplier to Erwan and Jean-Yves. So we have behind the scene, and our role is to offer a B2B2C solutions to our customers through ingredients to services. Of course, and then when we say that, the challenge from mid-March, actually, in Shanghai, was there was no more request, no more demand. And as expressed by Erwan and Jean-Yves, this is how do we adapt to that situation in Shanghai, knowing that Synodis covers all China. So then we have another challenge is how do we supply goods from our Shanghai central warehouse to the Beijing warehouse, Guangzhou warehouse, or Chengdu warehouse, so the rest of business to continue. And Synodis operates all across China, and this saved us as a company overall, that we really worked on Shanghai, how we could provide help to our customers, different services, and different, and we see that, different solutions when there was no more demand and nothing could be done. Erwan shared actually June. June is actually going to be worse than lockdown because there is no restaurants open and there is no more group buy. So then the situation, because people rush to some small shops and going back to normal retail, then for all of the food and beverage actors, June is going to be tougher than April. Surprising, paradoxal, but yes, it would be that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing and highlighting this fact that, yes, it's not over yet. One topic I would like to discuss with you is the employees, because for every company, this has been a great challenge. And we know that the employees are at the heart of operation for F&B and for logistics as well. you need people. You need people to be available. You need teammates. You need motivation. People needs to be present. And how do you do that when you're in charge of a business? How do you keep your employee motivated when everything that happens around makes it so difficult? So how did you ensure that your employees' motivation was as high as possible? And how did you ensure that their welfare was also taken into account during this crisis? Maybe Jean, if you could start.
So I would say for a company who never, we operationally speaking, we never stop with all our operational staff and all the office staff was at home. So there are two parts for us. One part with people with staff who was in the warehouse, in the operation. I think the most important is to be, firstly, to be together with them. And secondly, trying very small things for the motivation. For sure, it's a day-to-day communication, a day-to-day to be together and talk to everyone, because up to, I would say, 15 days at warehouse, believe me, it's also difficult as someone who blocked at home.
Because it's true that your employees, so from when your employees started to be at the warehouse, when did you ask them to stay, and how did you convince them to let them know that it was supposed to be a 5-day lockdown, if we remember correctly? So it's a totally different way. So yeah, when did it start?
In fact, we had with experience in the south of China, so we decided to keep part of our staff during the first week, to keep around 40 staff, and then day after day, personally, I should call every level of government, every compounds, and with all our lessons, we try to one by one, and our logistical team going there to pick our staff and put them into the warehouse. So the most difficult for us, it was really the stress, and for sure we have a special bonus on financial side for all the staff staying in warehouse, that's for sure, but also some small things for shower. We should really to find all the solution with that. In fact, a lot of availability of different material. So it was a shower, it was food every day, cooking, even a small thing in terms of operation, not very with staff, but we have how many copy machine and no ink, for example. So we should to send our driver to the company and trying to open the door and to keep the people to go there in their warehouse and go in our warehouse extra. So with all the staff, I think another part for the staff staying at home. So we deliver 3 times, I think, essential to our staff in the office. So I can hear from both sides. At the end, after 20 days, people crying for people at home to asking to go to the warehouse, put me outside of my home, and on the other side, let me go back to home. I can see my husband, my father, mother. It was for us. It's really a day-to-day to be there with the staff. I think that is the most important and a very close discussion. Psychologically, it was very, very hard.
Talking about discussion and communication, I know, Denis, you had also some experience before in other countries with some crisis situation, and there was also some best practices that you put into place during this lockdown. Would you mind sharing with us what did you do with the employees?
Yes, actually, I was like many viewers. I think I was already in Asia for SARS, then H1N1, and then I was in Tokyo during the Fukushima problem. So 2020 was my fourth crisis. This one, the fifth. I think I'm the unlucky one who brings all the mess. So jokes aside, that allows me to react quickly and to embark not only the Synodis team in China, but also the full confidence of HQ. We sees that from the very long distance. And the first thing to protect are the employees. And I'm not ashamed to say that in front of customers, because if there's no employees, then there's no customers. So the first thing was to keep everybody engaged. And I spoke to all employees of Synodis, who are about 300 across China, and with the majority in Shanghai, in Teams meetings, speaking directly to everybody. And I had 4 global Teams meetings with everybody to reassure them that the company was okay, that we will pay all salaries and bonuses at the end of March, because the lockdown started mid-March, and to keep them engaged, to tell them about the result of the group and that they should not be afraid for their job. That's the first thing. And then to talk about the development we were making, the progress on the delivery licenses we were getting, and what we were planning to do as it was moving along. Very quickly, before the end of March, we also put some mental health support classes in Chinese with famous professors to explain that it's going to be tough. It is tough already, but we need to adjust, and some simple recipe to adjust. As you were mentioning, not everybody lives in a nice place alone. And when you have your parents, your wife or your husband, your children, your father and mother or your in-laws, with no judgment, it's not easy every day. So then working from home then becomes very different. So to tell them also that it's okay not to be efficient, it's reassuring to them. And we had 99% participation of my talk, or the mental support, and with great feedback. Then we put also a physical online exercise. It says, well, guys, we are in food business, so we like to have food, and we like to eat and drink responsibly. But we need also to take care of our health, and we also did that, which was very well appreciated. It was a weekly volunteer and was good. And we also provide food for delivery very quickly, as we could not have a license, some issues. And then we give coupon for our employees to purchase from group purchase. When we could, then we used a vendor to deliver food. Vegetables on the first pack. Our chefs gave recipes, and then we had a special indulgence pack in mid-May when we didn't want any more vegetables. But we wanted, people wanted Coca-Cola, they wanted chips, they wanted, coffee, cleaning powder, and things like this. So what we call indulgence. And I firmly believe that the results of April and May and what we're seeing in June is coming from a fully committed, engaged team. And that's why the first priority was employees. And we got feedback from employees, and they really appreciate what we do. They know that Synodis is probably very rare. We could do it. So I was very, very happy that we would do it, and we did it all the way.
Thank you so much for sharing. I know when you have employees around China not living at the same space, because not everyone was in lockdown at the same time, it's also creating this imbalance. Erwan, what about you? Could you maybe share with us what happened with your employees?
So for the employees, I will answer to the question in 2 different ways, because I have a double activities. So as Synodis, we have also national activities for what we call the main business, so the wine and alcohol importation. We distribute to the whole and big supermarket channel, including Sam's Club and all those famous names. So we had the experience already, because this was not the first lockdown in China between 20 and now. Of course, there is Wuhan first, but many smaller cities. It has not been so famous in Shanghai, but there is very strong lockdown in Xi'an, in Nanjing, but also in Shenyang, also in Nanchang, and it has impact already a lot on employee. Most of our employee in all those cities in China, they work as salespeople in the store, which means that majority of their salary are made on the sales. Of course, there is no sales. There is not this part of the salary. So what we did first is that we let them know immediately that don't worry, the part that you have, what we call in Chinese the dixing, so the normal salary part, this we engage that you will have it, whatever, which is not the case for every company. We need to mention it because the best practice that mentioned Denis about Synodis, which belong to Savantia, big international group, is not the majority of the company in China like that. In most of the company, there is a real issue on the salary. I will receive my salary or not. That's definitely the question. It's not even question of minimum salary or minimum for survive, which is a tiny part of the minimum salary, which is allowed by the law and by the government in every city. So we need to let them know that we will make more than the minimum to let the people feel that they will be still in after, and of course they will keep their job when the lockdown will be finished. So that was for the majority of our employee all over China. For the restaurant, it's totally different. Restaurant is only in Shanghai, and there is no revenue at all.
Yes.
So you come from a zero business, zero revenue. So you need to mention, you need to speak. Communication is the key. And from those kind of brainstorming with the team, then born some ideas. And this is at that time that we begin to the purchase group, the compound purchase group. And it's coming from one of those brainstorming. And for that, we said to the people, everybody in the team, whatever you were in the kitchen, whatever you were on the front, if you bring some customer, if you speak, you manage some of the group, then of course you will have a higher percentage, sometimes over 100%. It really depends on the result than the salary you got previously. But if you do nothing, we give opportunity to everybody. We keep everybody on board, of course. But if you do nothing during 2 months and a half, definitely you will have only a tiny part of your salary. Of course, over the minimum, but not as someone that work from Monday to Sunday, from early morning until late at night, because this is what happened. This is what happened in a stock from hypermarket, I can imagine, same for us, but also for the people at home. Yes. Because when you organize all those groups, we got more than 100 groups to manage. You need to speak with more than 700 people per group. And this need to answer quickly, early morning or late at night. So this, and most of the people, they didn't have such work before. The work was different, totally different. So they need to adapt. And definitely for the politic we have internal, we explain that. We try to be logic and fair with the employee.
So it's very interesting because, as you were saying, collective intelligence is also what makes it work. And it's a very good bridge for me to ask you the next question around how did you transform your business offer? Because as the restaurant were closed, what did you do in order to survive? What happened?
So first, we try to better understand the consumer, what they really need. Definitely, as a restaurant, the people, of course, we have the data of what are the best dishes that we sell every month, but as dishes. With the group buying, we don't sell dishes because the kitchen is not open. So we just sell the raw material that we usually use to make the dishes. And it's quite different approach. We don't really know at the time that people, including majority of the Chinese customer we have, were crazy about baguette, for example. This is something that we discover. And it was very, very tough with the team of Denis that we fight always to get enough baguette. Sometimes I even have to call Denis personally to try to help me to find baguette, because baguette begin to be the things, because you try to sell other items, but baguette is what they need. If you sell foie gras or if you sell whatever, you put on a baguette. You don't have the baguette, that it big impact on the sales of other items. And so we try to better understand what the consumer needs. And then when we understood that, then we try to find the right supplier. We work more closely now with Synodis, with Denis. We knew each other before, but definitely we work closer since that pandemic, and we continue now. Because even if I totally agree with Denis, it's very tough June, because the buying is declining, is not finished, because there is a way, and probably it will be the last question, but there is a way to continue, and we will try to continue. And but definitely the restaurant is still in big difficulties at the moment. So we need to feel the support of the supplier. This is what we have with our different suppliers that we choose during that period of time. And so the right product, the right supplier. Definitely, this is what has been needed during that period.
So from what I'm hearing, you started with what we call private traffic, group buy on WeChat. So how did you create those group buy? And I guess you started from one group buy to how many group buy did you add, and how did it work?
So it originally was very interesting because it was mid of April. Because originally, as everybody, we didn't think that it will during that long. So we begin to have our first meeting for those group buy the 5th of April, when we understood that Pudong did not reopen 1st of April and Pussy didn't reopen the 5th of April as planified. So at the time, it's not a panic, but we need to find some solution. And during that brainstorming, we decided to launch a first communication on different group we have, like whatever. I'm from Brittany, so Les Bretons de Shanghai, for example. We send a QR code from another group that we create and dedicated for that, the first group. And then we have more than 200 people, but not more, because the limit is 200 people. So more than 200 people in less than 1 hour. So at the time, definitely there is a huge demand. After that, after the 200 limit, you need to add personally each person in a group chat. And from that originally group chat, then we ask the people interested to create a second group chat for their compound. So there is the original group chat. And then from that group chat, many others, so more than 120 group chat born with each compound that we deliver. So day after day, there is more and more group chat.
So word to mouth and spreading across different WeChat group, I guess must have been quite overwhelming to be able to manage so much communication and finding the right offer and product, as you were mentioning. Which is quite different. We do have a different way of doing that actually Jean-Yves teams put into place, right? How did you manage? What was a new offer that you did during this lockdown?
Firstly, I join Erwan's comments. Before answering you, in terms of retailer, we can see evolution about needs of the customer. You said baguette. I will say in the first week, it was pasta, extra, evolution. Second week, we can see vegetable. Third week, eggs, meat, and then starting by the first week of May, bread, basket, butter, extra meat, and then by finishing at the end of May, in your business, wine, extra more. It was strictly minimum necessity. We will say to adapt this situation, it was not easy for us because, for your information. First week, we try to do our best in terms of operation by doing no more operation, receiving orders extra, and the number of orders was exploded for sure. And quickly, we said we made a very quick and difficult decision on that time because we cannot cover everybody by to satisfy every individual orders. So we decided to standardize, to optimize our operation, try and find a way to optimize our operation by standard standardizing the offer and the operation. And for that, we decided to reimburse. I can give you one amount. It was a difficult decision. We reimburse around 15 million of RMB to different customers first week. And then we start to offer some bugs. In the beginning, it was urgency bugs, etc., with minimum necessity for people, trying to cover maximum of our customers and also a different community. So that was a very difficult decision made after first week. Then little by little, we try to make different bugs, always by standardizing, and in that case, because with all the staff staying in the warehouse, we were in the beginning only 20% of our capacity. And even at the end, we were at 80% of our capacity by offering, I would say, 300% of number of people, customers or people basically who need the water, the pasta, and we were working closely with different embassy for the urgent cases treatment with French embassy extra for people in difficulty. And every day we receive about 20,000 email or call. It was really a difficult moment. So we should to adapt it, and we close all the phone call. It was not a pleasure for a lot of customers, because during the phone call, you can receive a different question, somewhere not related to the order, or just related to the orders, but there are no answer. Question as you can deliver to my compounds or not. If our customer don't know, we don't know. We try. The most difficult for us challenge is also one thing. Another standardization is by logistic solution. So we should to maximizing the coverage of needs, community needs. So one day we select per area. So one day we deliver to Pudong, one day we deliver for Jing'an, one day we deliver by area. So that helps us also to optimize our capacity. So and then also standardize the customer service. So we only answer the email.
First you had to stop delivering it.
Absolutely. The another challenge I would say is thanks to our logistic team, and they during all the period we do in our warehouse one test plus 2 auto tests automatically. That is regulation from the government. Then our driver, when they deliver every compounds, they should to do 1 auto test. Imagine in average one driver should deliver around 100 orders, and then our drivers during the day and the night they deliver the orders, but almost the warehouse was closed. or they don't have any green pass for the trucks, etc. So our drivers, even our trucks, are not adapted to pick by pallet, etc. But we are doing manually. Believe me, it was a big, huge effort done by our drivers.
Yeah, it's thank you so much for sharing. I know it has been quite intense because finding those new offers is one thing, but then putting it to action without actually having the proper resources is another. I know, Denis, you as a supplier, you have a totally different approach on how you needed to adapt the business to find products, to deliver products in other cities, as you were mentioning, the main warehouse is here in Shanghai, but also how to keep the good relationship with your clients who needed products.
Exactly. So I will build on what Erwan and Jean-Yves said. Synodis' challenge was threefold. The first one was to ensure that we could supply our Beijing, Guangzhou, and Chengdu warehouse, even more importantly, how we could supply the customers which were used to be supplied from central Shanghai, from Guangzhou, Beijing, or Chengdu. And this was the first mission for us, that we don't stop the business. So rerouting containers and having stop in Guangzhou port or go all the way to Tianjin was a sport of the first weeks of April and continued until still now, as Shanghai port is still pretty full. Then the delivery through Shanghai was a real challenge that has been expressed by Jean-Yves very well. So we faced the same thing. And situation get improved a bit from third week of April, fourth week of April for us, because we were not considered as essential food, not vegetables, not meat. And Valrhona chocolate or Elevia cream is a very indulgent product and was not recognized as a priority. Yes, absolutely, baguette. And then the second thing is how can we do business in Shanghai? And the group buy caught us totally by surprise. On the same week, we realized that one of my HR manager was actually doing group buy in her own compound. And then we saw figures and we said, wow, this is a very good salesperson, so I'm going to transfer her. And then at the end of the week, Erwan called me, says, we're putting together some offers. Do you have products? And he says, yes, I think about this, I think about that. And in 10 days, what we proposed dropped, and actually new offers came in for home baking, for things that go well with wine at the beginning. And then we discovered that the real demand was totally different. And we were caught by surprise because we supplied bread and all the bread-related products to restaurants, but the demand on some specific baguette was way far better than we anticipated, because after Erwan many of the customers started to do the delivery, and then they had, okay, you have a entry, a main dish, and dessert, and then you have bread. And then suddenly there's 10 baguettes for one main dish and one dessert. So we had to face that new demand, and how do we anticipate with our own suppliers, which fortunately could deliver. We never stop importing. That's something after the crisis, it starts again, and we never stop importing. And the third thing we did is, how do we keep contact with our current customers in Shanghai? How do we help them go through that crisis? And what we did in Synodis is to contact them and propose financial services. So for our regular customers with no payment incidents, then we offered extra payment terms at no cost and simple verbal engagement. And that's things we did already that in 2020, it worked very well. And we immediately from mid-March, I said, well, we put that crisis team together, accounting team and sales working together. Usually these guys hate each other, but since 2020, they really work together, understand the role and responsibility they have. And I'm very happy to see that we have some customers says, thank you, but I don't need it. Or thank you, I'm going to use it. And every engagement so far has been delivered. So when we give a hand and the hands comes back, and we will continue to do that. Synodis has luxury, probably, compared to other companies to be able to do it. But that's what we want to do, what I want to do as a commitment to our customers. So threefold: how do we deliver for the future in the rest of China? How do we satisfy new demand, which took us completely by surprise? And we'll go back on the last questions. I strongly share that it will stay. And then how do we help our current customers to survive and go through this? Because unfortunately, I believe the crisis this year is going to be much more terrible than 2020.
Thank you so much. I hear from everything you said that I guess it also doesn't really matter on which industry you are from, but whatever you do, you always need to be quite resilient and also agile by putting the user at the center of everything you're doing. So even if you're doing B2B or B2C, listening to your customer, getting those feedback, and then being able to adapt according to their demands, we can see in terms of crisis moment, this way of working is really mandatory if you want to survive. Let's talk a bit about, let's hope the near future, very near future, is how do you see things evolve? So we've discussed already a bit about some restaurants might stay closed. How long will it happen? We know we have quite uncertainty, but what would be your ways of thinking and in terms of business offer, in terms of what will come next? Maybe we can start with Erwan.
So the future, I'm not that sure about the future, but what I know is that this crisis is continuing, because Denis just mentioned that 22 will be more complex than 20, but 20 has been complex already and touched a lot of restaurants already. There is a lot of famous name in Shanghai. They even didn't wait this crisis to go out of the market. Many famous including a famous channel, also high-end restaurant, because all those restrictions on traveling and business traveling has impact a lot the high-end of the restaurant. So of course, when there is a crisis, there is also some opportunities, because some people leave the market. So you have more. If you think carefully about the new condition, you can take some new customers. This is what we did with the group buying. We will continue the group buying for that reason and try to develop more with the experience we got during that crisis. We also think that if some other crisis coming, we need to react even quicker than before. This is also something that we will care, because here in China the conditions are totally different with the way they manage the crisis in Europe, North America, or even Japan. Here you do everything by yourself, and in that condition the wait and see attitude doesn't work. You need to be proactive, but you need to have two quality. You need to be resilient. You mentioned about it, so like a marathon runner, but you need to be quick. As a 100 meters runner. And this is the difficulties, is to match the two things together. So with all those, if you have all those quality in the team, because definitely it's not only the general manager or the founder of the company who can manage all those things, you need those quality in your team. And then if you have those quality in your team, then you will take opportunity from that crisis that definitely will continue in the coming months and hopefully not in the coming years.
Yes, finger crossed. Thank you. Jean-Yves, what about you? What about hypermarket? What is going to happen to those boxes, for example?
I will say several strategy we will put. Definitely this pandemic, even we were not really suffering financially speaking, but give us some reflection on the next step. I think there are three avenues. Firstly, we always basing our specialization, so we will create more and more groups by interest. For example, hypermarket was the first one 20 years before to launch in organic product. Then gluten-free. Then in the rest by gluten-free, now vegan. In the rest by categories of product, but also by interest. For example, people, healthy people, or people who make gym, etc. But to be more specific. This is the first strategy. Second strategy in terms of B2C business is clearly we are the leader in Shanghai for not only for expat community but also for Chinese, and this population definitely is our target. So we will do more and more events in different high-level compounds and with different bank, private school, etc. So that is another avenue. And the third avenue is by doing B2B business, by serving more and more companies, etc. Because during the pandemic, during the lockdown period, we deliver also a lot of big companies, and for that way, definitely we can never, as an entrepreneur, I think actually every day here is as entrepreneur, we always we should have never put the egg in the same. In the same basket. And with this experience in pandemic is once again. So if I have other suggestion to do for, hopefully there are no next crisis at this, but as an entrepreneur, firstly, both three, I think actually other entrepreneur during this period never abandon. Always trying to find availability in terms of product, in terms of market, in terms of energy, etc. Never wait. A company cannot wait a lot. So always find a solution and always be quick to adapt. If you wait, you lose one step, you will lose every step. So never abandon during whatever difficult period.
There might be solutions somewhere waiting. I know, Denis, you also were thinking that group buy might stay, right?
Yes, absolutely. But before going this, I think I share the total view, the agility and resilience. And not only during the crisis, the agility and resilience have to be developed in terms of peace. This is how do we find solutions? There's a problem that, no, there's a problem. Okay, there's a solution, let's get together. That state of mind is something we need to culture. And unfortunately, I think if it's not this year, it's going to be another crisis. And in the next 20 until foreseeable futures, we will face, if it's not COVID, it's going to be what is monkeypox. So there will be other things, there could be anything, and whatever the crisis, it's how do we react to it. And and that's why the first focus should always be the employee, because then they are the engine, not the three of us GMs. Alone, we can't do anything. So if you have that agility and resilience, then solutions come. And how do we see things coming? We try, we fail, we try again. And then we find the solutions and we adapt. For the subject of today, I'm convinced that the group buy will stay in a different way. But Jean-Yves, you're expressing it, specialized, compound purchase. It means that traditional retail will suffer even more than they already do, because if you are delivered your box to your home, there's no more luxury. So, and here at Synodis, we have a role to supply the products, to co-develop products, because you can try an œuf à la neige. So I don't know what you say, an œuf à la neige in English, but through a Quaidi, the œuf à la neige is a little bit strange on arrival. So how do we develop dessert solutions that can withstand the shaking of the Quaidi? That's something interesting to develop. And always think that during the crisis, it's hard. but there will be after crisis. After the rain, the sun, it's always there. How do we keep positive thinking that tomorrow will be better than today? But this depends on all of us as GM. If we go to the office or on our meetings, then all the employees will think, okay, we're going to die. If you say, guys, it's difficult, yes, but we're going to fight and we're going to show it, and you drive with your own enthusiasm, that drives the whole company forward.
Thank you so much for sharing. Everything was quite insightful, and I'm sure that everyone also learned a lot during today's discussion. Private traffic did exist before, but I guess that the group buy really actually accelerate these trends, maybe even more for F&B, because it might not have been that popular before, but I guess it will also expand in other industries. So it's not because you're not in F&B that there will be no group buy or no direct discussion with those new clients that you can attract. We still have a bit of time for questions, so I'm going to hand over my mic to Rachel, who has a question from the participants. So if you have additional questions, please feel free to put in the chat, and we will try to answer to our best.
Thank you. So we had 3 questions, but I think that we partially answered 2 of them. If it's not the case, please send them out. I'll have them over here. But maybe one of the key ones that we didn't really cover is what are the product trends and buyer focus point after lockdown? So did you notice any big trends on preferences from consumers around products? And do you think they will stay the same? That's my way to interpret this question. I don't know who would like to start.
In fact, after the first lockdown period in 2020, there are one chance we can find, because people at home and they are cooking more and more. And I remember at that moment, the machine for cooking, it was the best seller during that period. And with these 2 months, I will say definitely people will change their attitude. So they will still go to the restaurant to take pleasure. Extra. I think before China, it was a little bit different in Western countries. And go to the restaurant in China is every day. And the young generation don't know how to cook. And that will be the first change. Because for me, maybe I'm wrong. My point of view is in near future, Chinese consumer will do the same. That means restaurant is pleasure. And then they will cook more and more. So that's why I will say for personal point of view, firstly, the good raw material for cooking, for example, such product with recipe extra, that will be one chance. A second chance is very clear, because financially speaking, you have a lot of investment already in, is ready to cook. For example, all the bigger system, frozen food, ready to cook. And for so many during the period, we sell a lot kind of product into a Chinese family, and they were so proud to sit down, have a French dinner at home. And that was something never imagined in a normal Chinese family, with a French wine, with some dishes, cordon bleu at home. They cook, easy cook. I think that's kind of product will be the trends in future. Personal opinion.
What we saw recently, still on the approach of the group buying, is that there is more question than at the beginning of the lockdown on how we cook the product that you are selling to us. There is not so much question like this. In a way, it's look a little bit like the answer of part of it of Jean-Yves. We have a lot of questions like this. They're asking us, what about this meat or this fish, or we have to cook? Quite new. And the second trend there is three trends. The second trend is that it's more premium. We saw that the people probably it's not a trend for the long run. We will see later, but right now people, they want to enjoy life, so they're asking for good product and premium product. And the third one, there is they want to match together what we have before in Shanghai and all over China, definitely, like the most famous Pingtai, which is Ele.me and Meituan. And of course, for expat, you have Sherpas and some others. But they want to match it together with the group buy. And this is something very, very new. Not everywhere, but in the compound where you have a Tuanzhang, so someone in charge of the compound, which managing that group, they ask for that is very new. Even if you do pizza, even if you do the meat, but ready to eat. So it's the contrary of what we said just before. Part of them, they want to learn how to cook and to make by themselves. Some of them, they didn't change at all, but they want to use the group buying to get maybe a better offer. And then, okay, tonight, Saturday night, everybody eat pizza and let's go. And this is what we see very recently for the last 7 days.
I will go with Erwan and Jean-Yves on the group buy. And the group buy will be is a unique chance for many Chinese community to discover foreign food, or not foreign food, Western food, French food. It's ready to use. It's frozen. You defreeze, you cook it, and they discover dishes that they never thought they would be eating at home, because one, they cannot cook, and two, the image is super expensive in a restaurant. So this suddenly enlarged the market of Western ingredients and Western solutions far faster than we ever dreamed. The restaurants, and especially the Western type of restaurants, of course the Michelin star, but even the very casual bistro, will continue to thrive. All the consumer research we've seen, everybody says, now I want to consume. We've seen some wild parties happening in center of Shanghai a little bit too soon, and that triggered a lot of anger from the authorities. But people are ready to consume. They want to spend. They want to go. So the next couple of months will be a huge rebound of the restaurants. Then it will stabilize again. But with that restaurant rebound, the home cooking rebound will really continue. And our challenge is to find a product that we are appealing to these new consumers, not so much the French community, but all the new Chinese community which have discovered, oh, wine is good. And wine is doesn't have to be super expensive. But oh yes, I can have a poulet basquez very easy, when they didn't even know what poulet basquez was before. And the role of Synolis is to adapt to this new demand. And again, resilience and agility. And we're already thinking how we can offer solutions and help our customers to develop.
Just to jump in, I actually read something on the news saying that the Chinese government was considering to do some cooking classes inside the educational system, because they realized like most of the Chinese people did not know how to cook anymore. So they were relying too much on the restaurant. So if the lockdown might change something, that might be Chinese consumer have to cook now.
And there is a really tricky question coming from the audience, so I'm gonna ask it and see if any of our guests would like to jump in. When do you foresee dine-in being authorized again in Shanghai restaurants? I'm aware the question may be absolutely impossible to answer. This is what the person has asked. So if you want to pull out your best guess.
Pick a date, throw a dice, and you'll have an answer as good as I can give you. The restaurants were supposed to open on June 11. Everything was tending to this. Some leaks information were showing this, and we had some people going there. And then we had red rose. hairdresser, which shambled everything. Then in Beijing, we had the supermarket and bar things which shambled everything. Everybody is super nervous now. Everybody heard rumors, it's going to open next week or the week after next. And the truth is nobody knows. And we have entered a little bit of emotion decision-making. Yesterday, Shanghai was 4 people, or 9 people, and before 4, 25 million inhabitants, zero societal life yesterday. It's far beyond any economic logic. So unfortunately, nobody knows. And that's why we were saying that June will be tougher because there's fewer group buy, the delivery doesn't help restaurants to sustain. If I knew, I would be with my team preparing the reopening so that we can supply.
And the answer to this question could be also totally different. It depends where you live. Of course, now we are talking about Shanghai, and don't speak about other cities, but also inside Shanghai, it really depends where you live. If you are in the center of the cities, the answer is yesterday, or 1 week ago, or even 2 weeks ago. If you live in Qingpu area, if you live in Jinqiao area, it was possible 1 week ago, and they changed the rules again. So the rules is different from the morning to the evening sometimes. And maybe next week it will be open, but maybe the following weeks it will be closed down again. So that's why this meeting was quite interesting, because definitely we need to continue to adapt and to have other solutions to survive. If we only expect of when we can put the full capacity of the restaurant, then this is a wait-and-see strategy. And I totally agree with what said previously Jean-Yves. We cannot wait. As entrepreneurs, we cannot wait. We need to have visibility. We need to be able to pay our supplier. We need to be able to pay our rent, because we didn't mention about that today, about the rent, but the rent is also totally different. If your owner is the government, then you have a better condition than if the owner is a private entrepreneur as well, which has its own difficulties. So you need visibility. And definitely on that question, no visibility at all.
Great. Then I guess that's all for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you so much for people who are online. We are hoping that maybe soon we could at least meet all together again. But in the meantime, this settings, thank you so much for coming over. Thanks for the French CCI to have us. And I hope you learned a lot. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us and we will transfer it to our guest speaker. Have a good night and see you next time.